Hello everyone, this is Anna from our Paper Paradise, and today we are going to be making a monogram in quilling. We already have an example for an A, and I will be making two other letters to illustrate some different points in how to make the letters. So for this class, I will be taking two more or less distinct letters, and I chose these two because they are part of the letters that were chosen by my students, but also because they illustrate the differences that we are going to have to deal with when doing the letters. When you look at the letters in the alphabet, especially in the capital letters, you will see that some of them are very angular, and some of them will have angular parts and rounded parts, and some of them will be just rounded. So I chose a very angular letter and one that has bits of angular and rounded parts. I also chose one that was completely open, so this has nothing inside of a bigger shape, and this one has little pieces inside of a bigger shape. So this will help you understand how to deal with certain things so you can do the monograms for any letter. A few things I want to talk to you about. So to get the design on the background paper, I just placed your template on a window, place this over it. If you notice, there's two little marks on there just so you can see where the paper hits. Centered it more or less and drew with a pencil very lightly the outline of the letter. And that's how you get your letter on there. As you start working on it, you can use an eraser to kind of erase any lines that are outside of what you're doing. For this class in particular, we're doing the white background with a white outline of the letter, just like this guy here. I just think it's very clean and beautiful, but you can use any background color you want, any strip color for the outline. It's entirely up to you. Don't let that ever limit you. So you want to avoid working on the background as much as possible so you don't mess it up. And that's why you have the template too. You can start working on here and avoid mishaps. To start the outline of the letters, we can start by placing the quilling strip next to especially if you have a straight line, it's very easy to mark. So you can grab your tool and just score the place where the line is there. And once you have that scored, if you have trouble seeing that, you can also grab a pencil and just put a little line there. Once you have that marked, we are going to fold right there. And when you're folding, you want to make sure it's all lined up. If you have the strip going like that or upward or something, you don't want that at all, because then it will raise from the paper and not glue down straight. Okay. So that's one. Now you can continue to do this. Line it up with where you had the line there. Take the pencil again, put a line there. We're gonna fold it. See it when I fold it, it did that. So I'm gonna bring it down and fold it straight. And we're starting to have our letter. Next step, you line the mark there, and it's going to be over here. Fold it again. You can see we're starting, this one folds the other way, but that's easy after you fold it the first time. We're starting to have the outline built, and we want to have this built like this on the template before we start gluing anything down there. It just makes it so much easier. Okay, so next step, I'm going to put it right there on that line. I'm going to draw the other line and fold that one, which will fold upwards again. Don't worry that it's not staying still. It doesn't matter at this point. Okay, so you notice that you have a little bit of strip left up here. If you fold this, it will not be enough to cover this part. So when it comes to these letters, you want to cut this strip right there at the corner. We want to make the seams in the corners. So I'm going to mark it and cut it. Okay, so we have a good portion of the edge done. And now that you have done that, you can grab your eraser and go and delete those marks that you made on the paper, just for extra tidiness. All right, since here is where we ended the last strip, we're going to start there. Going to fold this. So this is the easy way for beginners to do it. You just mark everything before you fold it. What I usually do is I have the design here and I just start gluing the strip. I glue it down. When I reach a corner, I put my quilling tool in the strip and then I give it a twist to fold it. Glue down the side. When I reach here, put my quilling strip tool on the strip, give it another twist to fold it this way, and I just do it like that, which is a lot faster, but it's a lot more prone to error when you're not practiced at it. So it's better to do it slow and steady while you're learning. Okay, so this one will not be enough for this side. So we're going to mark it and cut it right there. And with that, we still need a little bit to cover this side here. So we need about 2.5 strips to do this letter. Now that you have all the pieces together, it might be useful to have a ruler around too, because we're going to start gluing this down. So I have the H here, and I like to kind of erase most of the lines. You really just need to know where it starts and where it ends, but that's a personal preference. you might need the help to do that. So if you need that, if you feel like you need that extra support, don't delete your lines. A couple of things when it comes to gluing. You can do this in 2 ways. You can put, well, more than 2 ways, but I'm going to teach you 2 ways. You can put the glue along this line and then bring it down. This is a little tricky because you have to keep the line straight the whole time. And if you're just beginning, that's going to be a little difficult. And if it's not straight and you then start straightening it, it will smear the glue around and leave marks that you don't want. So what I think is best for you guys, and that's why I said you might not want to delete the lines, is to just put a line of glue along the line of the letter there. And then I'm going to turn it around because I like to work like that better. So the trick here is, if you have a drawing that you're going to fill in with stuff, you want to make sure that you come from the outside into the line of glue. And you can use your ruler to put against it, and you have to be very gentle with this or else you'll just push it out of place, and you don't want to do that. So you just want to make sure it's straight. That's pretty straight. And you notice I just brought it in and I didn't fidget with it at all. Just let it sit on the glue. The line of glue is there. You can gently press it down into the glue, but you do not want to fidget with this at all. So by bringing it in from the outside to the line of glue, all the little droplets of glue are on the inside of this. So when you put your filling in here, this will cover any glue dots that are there. You can also grab a Q-tip and run it around the edge here to make sure there's no glue. However, be super extra careful because you don't want to move this line. That is so nice and straight right now. So you can just leave the glue, it's going to be covered. If you are doing this sort of design outside of the letter and just leaving the letter blank, I would say do it the other way around. So you would bring the strip from the inside outward, because then the glue would be on the outside and you would cover it with whatever you're putting on there. That's just a trick. It's not incredibly important as you're learning, but I figure if you know it, it will save you some trouble with the, oh, there's a spot of glue there. It doesn't matter because you're going to cover it up with something else. So this should dry pretty fast if you're using the Elmer's glue all. And it doesn't need a lot of glue. You notice that I just put that string of glue and it's fine already. Now I'm going to put another string of glue up here and bring that from the outside in. Turn it around, make sure it's straight. You can always use your ruler to kind of gently push it. And that's basically it. You just go around the letter doing the same thing. You will notice that I just started in one side and moving around like we did for marking the paper. There is no rhyme or reason for this. It's just you could start on the other side and do the same thing. So this one, I'm going to fold this backwards so I can put the glue here and bring it in. And I'm not sure if you can see, but my lines are not super straight. But that doesn't matter because they are mostly going to be covered. They're light enough that it does not make too much of a difference. Don't be afraid to move your work around to make sure you have things in the right place. All right, so now we go to the next strip. And for this, I'm going to place a little bit of glue on that edge there so that when we bring that in, it will connect. I'm not sure if you can see how little glue I'm putting on there, if the contrast is enough, but it's just the tiniest string of glue. See, I barely touched it right there, and it's sticking together. It's just fitting nicely. Honestly, the best thing you can do on these sort of thing is to fidget the least amount that you can. So I'm noticing that this strip is going a little over the edge here. I am going to glue this side first and then trim the excess. And you can always trim excesses, so don't be afraid of them. It's better to have more than less actually in this setting. Oh, I forgot to put a little bit of glue on this edge here. And since I know there's excess, I'm putting it a little further out. Now you can clearly see the excess. And we're almost done here. I think the top one will have a little bit of excess too, which is better than not having enough. But if you don't have enough, and that's why I measure on here first, don't let it dry. Just peel it off and cut another strip. All right, so to trim the excess right there, oops, we want to let that dry. Come on, dry up. And that's something, I'm very impatient with the glue drying, so things like that will happen to me all the time. But you want to let everything dry, and then you can see the little excess there. I'm just going to put the scissors in and snip it. You want to have sharp scissors for this. You don't want to be pressing against it or anything, making the glue come off. Okay, so we have the outline for the H. Now let's go on to the B. The B has these curved surfaces, and I'm not sure if we can make that curve in one strip. Let's kind of measure it and try and figure it out. Maybe. But when in doubt, it's better to cut it right there and have the other one, have one and then the other one, than not having enough. Could probably get away with this and then just have the other one. However, for the bee, we're going to start with the inside. Why? Because if you have a smaller shape inside a bigger shape, it's way easier to start with the smaller shape inside because you can reach it and shape things around it and glue it nicely. If you have a bigger shape around it, say I want to do something inside this edge now, it's going to be tougher to do all those corner bending and all that stuff now that this shape is there. So if you didn't have this shape previously, I could do the little things inside and then glue the shape around it. It's just a detail that will make your life easier. So I'm going to start with the big or the tiny pieces inside. Same process for the straight lines. I'm going to fold right there. I usually use my nail to just crease it there. Okay, so that is there. And now I know that around here, when I have where I have my thumb, is where the curve will be. So I'm going to grab my quilling tool and kind of run it over there to give it that curve. Let's see, it's to start a little back, but other than that, it's really nice right now. And I see that it's going to come over here. I'm going to cut it a little longer than I probably need it, but we'll figure that out once we glue it down. So I'm going to cut a little bit further than this line, just to have a little playroom when I'm doing this. There's one. With what's left, it's probably enough for the other one. When you want to make rounds, you always help the paper along with your tool. So if, say, you want to make an O, you just grab a whole strip and you just curl it like you're curling ribbon. And there you have it. That's pretty much an O. Then you just have to follow the outline of your letter and glue this on it. Let's see. An O would probably, one strip would probably not be enough to make an outline on this kind of letter. So what we do is we just do the same thing we did with this. We start gluing, and then when there's a seam, we just put some glue on the edge there and try our darnest to match the ends of the strips so that you can then glue the rest down that you need. I mean, you can glue by overlap, like have the two strips come together like that, but it doesn't look as good. That's just the reality of it. So and this takes a little practice. For a better seamless letter, you try to glue the edges nicely like that. But that's not what we're doing, so let's continue with our bee. And when I'm doing curves, I tend to like to give it a little more strip at the end than what I did here with the edge. The edge I cut right there because I know that's an edge and it's not going to move a lot. But curves are a little more finicky. So depending on how you glue it down, it might shift a little bit to one side or the other. So I like to have a little bit of playroom with this, and I always cut a little extra. Instead of cutting right there, I cut inwards a little bit just to have that room. And then once it's glued down, I can go in and trim it to size. Now let's start gluing. The process is the same. I'm going to start with the inside. I think this is the top one. One is bigger than the other, so yeah, this is the top one, this is the bottom one. Again, we have to glue the edges in order to hide the glue on the side that we're going to cover up. So the inside is interesting because we are going to bring it from in to out, because we want all the glue to be on the inside of the lines. See, that moved, this part moved the glue inward. And now I have a smear of glue there, but that's okay because we're going to cover it up and it won't be there when we need it. This part is a little trickier because we are already on the other side that we need to be on. So we have to lift, gently lift. I'm holding this down and I'm gently lifting this one up to go over the glue so we can glue from in there to out here. I hope that made sense. So basically, I had the glue down there and I had this on this side, so I lifted up so it wouldn't touch the glue, brought it to the other side, and then let it slide over the glue. As you can see here, it's a little too long. It's also a little wonky. So I'm gonna, wasn't dry yet. I pulled it a little more on the top. And of course the glue then rebels against me. It's always good to look at your work straight from above to make sure you're doing things right. Okay, so that needed a little more work there to make it the right shape. Usually I'm looking straight from above, but since the camera's there, I can't do that right now. So I need to move it sometimes. Okay, so there's that little tab there. I'm just gonna, I use this one as a guide and I'm gonna snip it right there. If you need to put a little more glue to, see there's a little gap there. I'm gonna put a little more glue in there and bring those two together. There we go. I'm not sure if you can see, but there's a bunch of glue on here, and that's what you get when the shapes are really small and fidgety. You can just wipe it with your finger or leave it because it's going to be covered with the filling, so don't worry too much about it. All right, now for the out part. I'm gonna start with the big one. So basically I'm just making sure that the strip touches the glue, and if there's a spot that it's harder for it to stay, I'm holding it there like over here. It's obviously wanting to open up again, so I'm holding it a little bit longer. But usually when it touches, it stays like that. Okay, now this guy, I'm gonna do this away just so I can get them lined up in the center there. So now I'm gonna cut the excess right there. And I kind of see where I had the line, so I'm just gonna trim it to the line. And just for good measure, I'm gonna put a dab of glue in between them. Make sure everything stays in there. And that's the bee. So now that we have the outline, we will be having some fun. And the trick to filling in letters is to make a few forms, a few shapes, and then play around with them and see where they fit, where they don't fit. If you need extra, if you need less. This was not planned at all. I just started making curlicues and put them in there, and then added another one, and then added another one, and then sometimes this one didn't match that one, so I took it out and put something else in there. So to make this, what we're going to do is I'm going to try and mimic the same sort of feeling that I have on this one and see how we can adapt it to these guys. I'll probably need a little more shapes to fill these guys. It seems to me that like there's more area, but the shapes will be the same. So let's get to it. Most of the shapes in here are scrolls. The scrolls are really easy to make. You just curl one of the sides and don't glue it down, and you have a scroll. Now, the strips are pretty long, and these are pretty small, as you can see. Usually I start with a half strip. So I just fold the strip in half and cut it. And this is how these S scrolls were made. They're pretty big, and they fill a long section. So to do those, you grab your quilling tool. You have half strip already cut. Put the strip into the slot of your quilling tool. You're going to bring it all the way to the end, and then you're going to start rolling. You can roll away from you or towards you. I'm rolling away from me. Doesn't matter the direction. So you don't roll all the way. You can roll that much, and then you can help the rest of it with your tool. Just give it a little more curl. You're gonna play with it. You see these are pretty open. It's because I went and unrolled most of it. Also, if you leave it open for a bit, it will uncurl on itself. So you can play with it. Curl and curl until you get that. So you have a curl this way, and that's what the tiny ones are. So for the tiny ones, you cut the half strip in half, so you have a quarter strip, and you just do tiny scrolls. If you notice, there's like 1, 2, 3 S scrolls in here, and a lot more of the tiny scrolls. This one is a little special. So to make this one, I will teach you later. But for the S scroll, so you curl this one this way, now you're going to curl this one the other way. So here we have an S scroll, and we can put it in there. It doesn't matter where you put it. I'm gonna be making pretty much the same for this and this, and we'll figure it out as we go. So to start with, just start putting things in there. Do not really worry about where they are right now. You can also give it a curl before you start on each direction, so you know where you're going to be rolling it to. You notice this side is a little bigger than this side. You can do that on purpose. You can do both sides the same size. It's just a matter of how much you roll on each side. I like asymmetrical scrolls a lot. They give a lot of movement to things, and that's why I use them more than the symmetrical ones. But if you're OCD, feel free to use symmetrical ones. Okay, that's about the same, and you can keep playing with it until it is where you want it. Let's say this one we're going to put here. Let's make a tiny scroll. So a tiny scroll, I cut the strip once, and then I cut it again. And I just give it a curl to start with, and then, oops, then I curl it. Not too tight. If you notice, I'm not doing it as tight as you would normally to make tight coils and all that, because you really want them to be nice and airy without closing too much. By the way, these measures I'm giving you of the half a strip and a quarter strip, you can change that as you wish. You can make longer ones of these. You can even make loose coils and tight coils, all you want. Right, I'm gonna take half a strip and do just the one-sided coil to see the result, just to show you what happens. You will notice that this is sticking up a little bit, so when we glue it down, we want to make sure this part is on the bottom so that we can glue everything down around it and it stays flat. If you glue it with that part up, it will always stay up. So we can make this one a little more special by doing that. See, this one could meet that one over there. See how this starts to flow? You just start looking at things and be like, huh, that might fit there. And nothing like this is planned. I didn't look at it and was like, oh, I'm gonna put this there, that there, and the other there. And just started creating, and it kind of came together. Another shape that is there, is the tight coil. These ones are very simple. So to make those, we actually cut a strip in 8 parts. So we fold it in half, fold it in a quarter, let me see how big this is. No, actually it's a quarter. So quarter strip. So the 275 for the tight coils is correct. Usually I don't work in inches. I just work in a full strip, half a strip, quarter strip, an eighth of a strip. So when I have to translate things for you guys into actual inches, I sometimes get things wrong. Not to mention that I'm used to metrics, so having the inches is a little confusing sometimes. So I'm kind of trying to mimic the design. We'll see how that goes. And now let's see. Let's make some leaves. For the leaves, it's an eighth of a strip, so very tiny piece. So this one, we are going to fold it in half. It's not quite half. Okay. And then I'm going to give it a little curl to each side. And then I'm just going to glue the edges or the open edge together. And there we go, that's those little guys there. Make sure you fold them in half. That one was a little off and you can tell it's a little wonky. Flowers are a great way to fill letters like this. However, since we want to leave it open and breezy, this shape of petal is better than, let's say, teardrop shape. That's a lot fuller. Not that you can't do that, of course you can, and if you like a tighter packed letter, you can go all out with those, or loose coils or tight coils. You can really go to town on this. Right now I'm just trying to replicate some of the elements in there. I'm not using exactly the same colors, but that's just part of the process. Never make the same thing twice. And you can really like squish these a little more to open them. Now, if you're making a letter for a guy, instead of doing all these flowy things, you can do triangles, squares, more angular shapes to fill the space. So this will be pretty much the same thing over and over again. I'll be doing S scrolls, small scrolls, long scrolls. Oh, I still have to show you that guy. Let me do that before I speed this up. Here we go. We have a tiny little flower there, and you can work around that. Like, let's say I want to put this there. It kind of frames it. See that right there? Perfect framing. It comes down, then you can bring another one right here and do that and continue flowing. You can grab another color. I'm just going to put this one here, but you can totally grab another color so it's different and put it there. See how I filled that spot right there? It looks like it needs something else here, maybe another leaf like that in another color. So that's how you keep doing these things and continue with your progress of filling out the letter. And if you are kind of OCD like I am and you like symmetry, you can try and grab this piece here and transfer it to this side here and have sort of mirror image to the center, so you can replicate it upwards this way instead of going down, what is going down this way. But yeah, that's pretty much how I do these letters, is one piece at a time, see what works, see what doesn't. All right, so for this guy here, we have half a strip. We are going to fold it in half. And then I'm gonna give it a little curl, give it a little curl, and then I'm gonna curl the ends to follow that curl. And there you have it. That's the shape right there. You can give it a little more of a bend. Right there. Put it at one of the corners like that. Yeah, it looks really good. But now you know all the shapes. We're just going to continue doing the same shapes over and over again and putting them down using different colors. Don't try to use everything you make. Make more than you need and play with it. For this one, I had a few other curls that I had made that I ended up taking out and not using. So just because I wanted it to be nice and flowy but still open. So it's a matter of preference, really. You can continue to do as much or as little as you want. Don't be afraid to try, move things around. We are not going to glue anything down until you are completely happy with what you have on your letter. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to continue making a few things and I'll speed the video through and I'll talk to you in the end when we're ready to glue things down. Sometimes the paper will get these little cracks if it's not primed enough. So just toss it. Don't bother with it. That's why we curl it before we roll it, but even then sometimes it does that anyway. So a good way to start this is start making the shapes I showed you. So take one strip of each color, divide them in half, and make an S scroll of each strip of each color. Then go on and divide half a strip in half and make scroll or 2 scrolls of each color. Then make some tight coils with the color you like and make some leaf shape forms with a color that goes with that. And that's how you start. You just make a few things. And I don't know if you notice, but I started just placing things randomly. But then I made these guys and I placed them in a corner. And once I had that anchor there, because I really liked how they looked there, I started putting things around them. So I came up with this shape and put it in a way that framed it. So on this guy, instead of doing the same thing going that way, I did it this way so it wouldn't be repetitive. I made it in a different color. And once I had those, I started figuring out a way to connect that one to this one by making an S there. And then from there, it was just filling in the blanks that I had created with the shapes. Same thing here. Started with these guys. I used the same shape there and the same shape there. It's even the same color and everything. And then I went from there to fill out this section and then fill out this section and then kind of make something that could connect the middle there. And then I went back and reshaped this because I didn't like how it looked. So I just took it out, cut the shape I had made in two, made 2 of these tiny scrolls and reshaped it and made it what I wanted. So in this guy, once I had the design kind of figured out, I noticed that there were some spots that had a little too much space in them. So I went in and placed some more of these leaf shapes where there was a gap that needed to be filled. And you don't have to do leaf shapes. You can make even tinier coils and put them in there. So instead of using half a quarter of a strip, you can use 1/8 of a strip. Let's see. This is half a strip. If I cut it in half, you get a tinier scroll here. You can see it's super tiny. You can shape it. Let me get this guy out of here. And you can put this in there instead. See, I even like that better, so that's a possibility. Maybe put something else in here. It's too big to be in there, maybe. I don't know. You can always move things around. That's why we don't glue anything down until we're done. So that is basically it. And then as far as the colors go, I try not to put colors that are the same together. So I try to make light, dark, light, medium, dark, light, dark. I try to alternate it in that way, but there's no plan here. I'm just looking at things, seeing if I like the design or not. And that's what I urge you to do too, is play with it. And there's no wrong way. You can always, if you don't like it, like you don't like this one here, you can fill it out with other scrolls. And since it's not glued down, you can always move things around until you're satisfied. But once you have the design you want, I want you to take a photo of it. Take a photo, because once you start gluing things are going to move around and you might forget where you had something. And that way you can refer back to your photo and make sure you're gluing it like you want it. As for the gluing, what we're going to do here, and this is, you've seen me work with these as I place things and move things around, but they really shine when you're gluing stuff. I would start with the corner and move down, and then start with this corner and move down. You're just going to pick up a shape, put a little bit of glue on the bottom there, and place it down. I'm not gluing anything down myself yet, but I'm going to go through the steps and show you. So for these guys, you put a little bit of glue on the edge there, and if they're touching the side, you want to put a bit of glue where they're touching, and then you just put it down and gently slide it to where you want it to be. Again, this is all about being delicate with these things. So you repeat this to all of them until you have that flower where you want it. You also can put a little bit of glue between petals just so they don't move at all. Now this guy, let me take that out of there just to make my life easier here. As it is, I want it to be a little further down like that. So I'm going to put glue on this edge and a little bit in the center, and then I'm going to slide this edge right against the corner there, because that's what I want to be. And I'm holding here because this is where I'm pushing it down further. So I put that there, and then I have to hold the part that is in the tweezers to get the shape I want. So I want sort of a equally spaced gap in between this guy and the leaves. So I will force it to glue down in that shape. As for this, you want to press it down so it glues, and once it's glued, you can take it off and it will stay in that place. And you just continue like that. Then this guy would go here. You do the same thing, put the glue on the edge there, being careful not to drag glue over anything. That's why I sometimes take all the coils in that line out and refer to the photo to see where I'm putting them. Just put it there. This guy goes there. And anywhere that the strips touch the line, the border, you can go in and put a little bit of glue to make everything consolidate. If it touches another strip, you can put a little bit of glue there too. Make sure it all sticks together and stays in place nicely. And that is basically it for this class. You just have to play with it a little bit, then gently glue everything down. And once you have it, you can move it around, nothing will fall off. And you can frame it or put it in a card and give it to a friend. And you have your beautiful monogram. I hope you have fun with this class. Do share your results with me on my page or in the comments for this video. And take care. Thank you.